Hey Tom, good to catch up again. Today, want to chat about AI. It's been out, in the market. Everyone's been talking about it for the last few years, and really, the main use that we saw up until a year or so ago was summarizing your emails and action items, and we were using it a lot for facilitation with our meetings, as an example, automating some processes and repeatable steps. Towards the end of 2024, something called the Model Context Protocol came onto the market. Anthropic released it, and since then we've seen some big breakthroughs, and we've really started to adopt and use it within our own business. Do you want to give us some context on what it is that we've been doing, an overview?
Yeah, for sure. So I suppose for those that we're seeing that, everyone knows AI, they're using it themselves from a personal efficiency perspective. But, you mentioned MCP, Model Context Protocol, and what that is. And essentially the really reduced version is the ability to connect other platforms to AI and really start to interpret data and use data across those platforms, various businesses, and that's been able to really turbocharge the usage of it. And we're seeing that, particularly in our business, the businesses that we also serve, doing work for, being able to really harness the amount of data that businesses have. All businesses have got, and I've spoken about this heavily before, the proliferation of platforms, of databases, of all these tools that align a bit. Some of them align a business, some of them, lots of businesses use. But we're now starting to see our team being able to build these MCPs, essentially MCP servers, and being able to bring all these platforms in and have the accessibility of those platforms and really drive out some data to make some business decisions that otherwise would have taken, well, in a lot of instances, just weren't accessible to people. And secondly, if they were utilising reporting and being able to drive their business based off data, that was taking an enormous amount of time. Those early results are the reduction in time to being able to access the data they want, but they're really now starting to access the data that they've never been able to see before and interpret it in ways that is just quite simply mind-boggling. And then the second part to all of that is, there's the data component and getting access to that data, but then it's the process automation based off these systems coming together and being able to do a lot more with, not only the data that you're seeing, but the process behind those things that would otherwise, again, come with time and a lot of effort, but also the opportunity to reduce errors in these processes as well. So that's probably the best way to sort of simplify it in the need. And the final thing that I'll say, Nathan, is that it's now accessible to people. Whereas, and we're seeing this sort of week by week, month by month, but more so week by week, even as late as last year, the accessibility to do these kinds of things just wasn't available to small business. But now through the likes of our team and the work that we're doing, we can stand these things up and give access to small business and medium-sized business very, very quickly.
Yeah. I'll touch on a few things there because that's something that's across every business, and we've got the same thing. We've got multiple tools, multiple systems that have all been purposely built to provide a specific, service or an outcome that we require. So look at a lot of businesses, they'll have CRMs, they might have case management software, they might have specific tools that they're using to track the work that they're doing, reports that they're sending off. All this data and information sits in different systems, and none of those systems talk to each other. Now, before, to be able to deal with that, you had to have a data analyst, or you had to make sure you had to have a team of people reporting on it. You had to consolidate all those reports together and spend hours and sometimes days getting them together. And I've worked in positions in the past where it's taken me 3 or 4 days to compile a report from 7 different providers to provide an objective outcome, give us actions and help us make decisions on what it is that we need to do. We're now able to do that really with pretty high level instructions about what the outcome we're wanting to achieve is once we've got all that information talking to each other. And we're already seeing some huge benefit in there, right? Providing insights to our engineers and how they're engaging with clients, where we're seeing trends on what's satisfying our clients the most and where we're performing best. All of these different things that don't just apply to us as an IT provider, a managed service provider, but would also apply to a lot of our clients as well.
Correct. So I think it's probably worthy of giving some examples and without sort of talking outside of school of what we're doing for clients and what clients are doing. You take, for example, our business. We're looking at, we've got what we refer to as a ticketing system, which is a professional services tool where we bring in all the work in. It dishes it out to engineers, projects, day-to-day tickets and problems and issues and escalations and all those sorts of things. We've had that for a long period of time. Of course, it's a line of business application. But obviously, this produces a lot of data. So the first point I'll make is that the data that's being inputted into systems is becoming now even more important. So the quality of data, because it can be almost overanalyzed. But we all know bad data in is bad data out. So that's the first point. Then we've got, say, another system like a telephony system, which is all sits in the cloud. We've been doing that for a long period of time, and we provide an enormous amount of service over the telephone and Microsoft Teams and what have you. So what we're now doing is not only analyzing that call quality data in the cloud and transcribing all of that with authorization, looking at tone, customer
Mm,
service levels, all of those sorts of things. So we're doing that in the telephony system, but then we're now overlaying that with customer service metrics
yeah.
and ticketing data and how we're communicating to clients and matching what we're saying in tickets and projects, what's being said on the phone, overlaying that to provide, quality scores. How can we improve training opportunities, efficiency, all of these sorts of things. So where it really comes to with this whole sort of MCP sort of what's happening is that in the past you would have two separate systems and we all talked about APIs and we're going to try and get a data analyst to connect from one system to the next. And that was simply to try and pass data off or continue a
Mm,
process or feed some data back in. Very, very clunky. This MCP, think of it again, something that's sitting in the cloud, the AI model, it's pulling that data into that and then being able to interpret it. So the power of it is exponential. It's almost like in traditional sense, the sort of the power of the past where, it was the sort of the point where you could collate some things. It's obviously, a BI on steroids. So that's just one example of what we're doing in terms of being able to provide better customer service in real time to our engineers and to, our layers of leadership and management that can provide and help, not only help our users to get quicker responses, more quality answers, better better solutions for projects, etc., but also help our team to be able to advance themselves to provide better
yeah, yeah.
solutions. They feel more empowered because they're getting the data real time. Things are not, escalating
Mm,
where we may have provided maybe we're not perfect. We sometimes provide the wrong answers to things, but this data is analysing that and picking it up very quickly and saying we should have done this differently or what have you. So it's until I mean that's a very simplistic overview, but until you see it and watch it happen, it's incredible to see businesses being able to transform literally within 2 or 3 days from this data and being able to then have actionable insights.
yeah. A few things that I want to summarize there as well from that perspective is the being able to get that feedback in real time or as close to real time as possible. So if we are making mistakes or we've got things that we haven't gotten back to, or things fall through things fall through the cracks, we know about it quickly as opposed to we know about it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line. And that allows us to correct it nice and quickly, provide that feedback, means that it's dealt with as it needs to be dealt with and it doesn't fester or cause further problems.
100%.
That's that's
Yeah.
usually important for us. Another big thing out of this though is that a lot of the time as businesses that provide a service, we have a pretty good idea or we feel like we have a pretty good idea about what a good interaction means to a client, what a client wants to hear, how they want to be communicated with, what they expect from the outcome. The way that technology is being used and the way that services are being provided and experience is becoming more and more important. Some of those things are going to shift over time. And we can't go with the assumptions of this was good 10 years ago, so it's good today. This allows us to actually get that information without being super intrusive to clients and annoying them with surveys constantly as well, because people
It's all gone
also have
now, mate.
survey
Yeah.
fatigue with being data driven. So those things combined lets us know, okay, as we're starting to develop this more, what are the best ways to communicate? What are the best times to communicate? what are the best ways that we can troubleshoot and solve all of these things. All of these things feed back into how we deliver service. And again, it can be very applicable to other businesses that we're providing services for as well. So,
I'll give you an example of a customer service business that sells product, provides service off the back of that in terms of a call center. Similar thing, essentially a database of ticketing and job logging. Someone has an issue with a product, and this is, I'm obviously giving you a real example here. Someone calls in on a product that the business has sold. It's a query about a warranty claim. And for example, you have a new customer service person that provides the incorrect warranty information that they might have perceived that applied to another product, but it actually is the wrong information because it's a different warranty on a different product. By analyzing from the MCP and the AI, analyzing what's being said in the ticket lodgement system and then what's being said on the phone, either that person or management can pick that up and say that, well, this client is actually ringing in about this product that was sold to them, matched off what was in the system, what was sold in the system, whether that's Shopify or things like that, and has actually told the customer the wrong warranty information and course correcting. If you can pick up on that in real time or short thereafter, the instances of providing better customer service, better expectation setting for the customer and for the business is just monumental. So these are just some small examples. And we're here today to sort of give customers, give clients and potential clients some of this information to sort of have some light bulb moments to say,
mm,
didn't know this was available.
mm,
What can we do to connect some systems and start to analyze data and provide better customer service? Because then, look, literally at the end of the day, no matter whether you're in hospitality or you're in non-for-profit driving a cause, and that might be sometimes, generating more revenue from charitable instances or your wealth management firms. We deal with a lot of those. There's a lot of everyone wants to provide either better their cause, provide better customer service in wealth
mm.
management, or we're in hospitality, which is another big circle. So it's a good way to start to think about, okay, we've got all these systems, and they can be anything. They can be, Nathan, we've seen, you know,
Mm.
HR systems. There's a lot of data in that in terms of when people are working and how they're working and matching that to POS systems and the data that's being sold through that and costings and matching those things up and finding discrepancies. I'm talking in the hospitality industry. There's a huge drive to increase not only revenue, but maintain and increase margin.
Mm.
And that analysis and that data can be uncovered very, very quickly. And again, I'm talking about, lead times of a couple of weeks and then a couple of days of implementation, you're getting some useful data.
Yeah, absolutely. And previous history working on the board of a not-for-profit, we had a lot of activity that we really needed to start tracking because we were tracking activity but weren't tracking outcomes and not tracking the impact of what we're doing. So just because we have an initiative or we think something's good and the idea of it sounds good and it's meant to do good things, we can actually measure if it's having the intended impact, the intended positive outcomes that we anticipated with whoever the demographics or groups are that we were going with. What was the solution we're providing? How we're providing it? Was it accessible? Can it reach the people that it's meant to? And that allows us to course correct not just how we're doing the day-to-day things or fixing up on mistakes, but also completely realign or change our strategy towards something else. We're putting a lot of time and effort into one specific initiative, and they say that initiative's not having any impact or not having the anticipated impact that we need, but we're seeing greater impact across something else that we're doing kind of on the side. Maybe we can pivot and change our business to suit that. And having all of those things talking from different systems and being able to measure different types of inputs from the qualitative stuff of how it's experienced or how it feels or like the impact that it has to people personally or to businesses personally, the experience, and the quantitative of how many is happening and what are the, 1, 50, 10, the hard and fast numbers, allows us to get a much better insight over how an entire business operates, and quite easily in a lot of instances compared to previously, like I said, where you have to have developers and reporting people full time or part time to your business.
Well, it wasn't, not only was it, as I mentioned before, was it, this stuff clunky in terms of trying to do, getting access to things, getting access to developers, a lot of
Mm.
businesses didn't even know where to start to try and
Yeah.
get system A and B talking to each other, and then you've got them talking to each other. And because they were not inherently designed to talk to each other, the flow of data just, it was average at best. And we saw this, well, we've seen businesses for 10, 15 years try to do this stuff and
Mm.
spent enormous amounts of money connecting systems for arguably not
A
very good
dashboard.
outcomes. And then, of course, these systems then moved to the web
Mm.
over the years, and then they changed. So that this whole dynamic has changed extremely quickly. I suppose the key takeaway here is for businesses to reach out and have a conversation about, as a managed service provider, as an IT provider, our existing clients, we aim to really know our customers and what they do and how they tick and what's important to them, rather than just their tech. It's part and parcel of what we do. We can start to come to people and say, we know you use this system and that system because it's important to you, and we've worked with you on the past. But what about X, Y, and Z? And we're encouraging, there's a lot of other opportunities as well. So we encourage people to come and have conversations with us to get us inside your business to be able to say, we're having these challenges. We've got massive error rates in this manual processing situation. We want more data to be able to make better decisions out of this, but we've just never known. I think the biggest thing is that on the service level, most business owners and most C-suite executives know the information, but once we start to do this work, 100% of people are blown away
Mm.
with the next, what they sort of, their mind starts to go at 1,000 miles an hour, and then the information starts to flow and they're like, whoa, we didn't know this was available to us. And what if, and then what if, and then what if? So setting those businesses up for success, but it starts with a conversation, getting someone like us involved in your business to say, these are the challenges, rather than we want X, Y, and Z. That's important. But if we
Yeah.
know the challenges, because we've
Mm.
seen a lot of the outcomes in other businesses and can adapt and provide other things, we can say, well, yes, we can do that, but we can also do these other, amazing things, whether that's, some process automation and better access to data, etc.
Yeah. Just to add on top of what you just said there, don't come into these types of conversations with AI as the goal because everyone else is talking about it and doing it. It has to be, there has to be a real need and a driver for your business. And having that data, that information all talking to each other and driving business outcomes, business decisions. Start with some of the problems that you observe and you know about. As you're starting to get familiar with working through these things, the scope opens so widely because you start thinking about, well, what if we connected that to that? And what happens? Oh, that always happens, but I also see these things happen. You're able to start determining cause and effect within your business as well. That's going to be the stuff that's absolute gold. So rather than having your destination as we want to automate or we want to have AI, it's about understanding where those things currently aren't working and coming in with a fresh perspective and being curious, because in a lot of instances, we're seeing it now. We're going to see it over the course of the next several months. We can completely change the way entire parts of our business operate from areas that weren't optimal to being absolutely optimized. And rather than just building on what we've always done, we can actually start fresh or start completely new in some areas. So having that curiosity, understanding and focusing on the problems and the challenges is going to be the thing that drives you further rather than focusing on the destination of just having AI.
People are attacking this, and we're attacking this from also a cost perspective. So I come back to the original point I make. We, like every business, have got system bloat, subscription bloat. We've got a subscription for everything, as does every business. I've seen some businesses have 7 and 8 subscriptions just to manage their social media marketing components, if that's important to their business. And then you just go down the line of every single subscription. One of the important things is that this opens up by virtue of building out these MCP servers and connecting all your platforms. We are seeing very quickly they can say, well, that reporting platform and that platform and that platform eliminated, don't need them anymore,
Yeah.
because they're being able to. A lot of these platforms are being implemented to either speed up process or time to market or reporting, and they're now being eliminated because the core systems that will never go away to your business, those line of business applications, whether they're accounting platforms, so overlaying data into your primary line of business application overlaid with your telephony system if you're a service business, bringing these all together, there's all these other little ancillary things that can then be eliminated. relatively quickly,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
built if they've got specific functionality that you need on the side of the other things.